Okay, welcome everybody to the Penacook Village Association Annual Meeting. I'm Brent Todd, I'm the president of the PVA, and it's really great to see you all come out here tonight. The folks who are not here tonight are busy preparing for the storm tomorrow, right? But you brave souls are here and I appreciate it. I just want to recognize we have a few folks here in our audience. Mayor Byron Champlin is here. We have Councilor Horn from Ward 2. We have Councilor at Large Judith Kurtz here. And am I missing any other current councilors? No. And then we have our councilor-elect, Mark Davies, and we have Aislinn Kebab from Ward 6, and Mark's from Ward 4. So thank you all for coming here tonight. So I also have just a couple of other quick housekeeping things. I want to do a thank you, as always, to Merrimack Valley School District for allowing us to use the space here tonight. Big thanks there. Thank you to our friends at Concord TV for recording the event tonight. And thank you also to the PVA board members. Can I have a show of hands of our current board members who are here? Thank you all very much for your service to the PVA and to the community. So just in a quick agenda overview, we're going to spend just a few minutes here at the start of the meeting doing some PVA work, voting for new board members, and then we'll hear from our special guest. So first, I want to thank all of you who are new or continuing members to the PVA. This is a volunteer organization, and your membership is really important. Those dues that you pay and those donations that you make are crucial to us being able to hold meetings like this for the community. So it's a volunteer organization. Your support helps. We have a sign here that indicates the donations, the QR codes for donations or for membership that you can pick up on your way out. And we also have a sign recognizing our business members, and we want to thank our business members for contributing as well. Also, for more information about the organization or for news, updates, you can go to our website, which is penacook.org. So this is actually the only neighborhood association in Concord, officially recognized in Concord. And so we work to serve the community here, and we always are looking for new ideas, concepts, things that we could be working on. One of the things we're going to be working on, we'll be talking about here tonight, which is this community business engagement program. But beyond that, we're always looking for, we're always open to new ideas. I just always take this opportunity at the annual meeting to read to you our mission and vision statement, because that sort of tells us really about what we're all about and what we're here for. So our mission statement is to involve citizens in enhancing the quality of life, protecting the historic character, and fostering economic vitality in Penacook Village. And our vision statement is to build community through a voluntary association that connects neighbors, shares neighborhood information, and promotes activities and civic involvement in the village. And of course, once again, that's what we're doing right here tonight. So our first order of business is just the election of board members. All dues-paying members can vote, so you can just raise your hand when it comes time to vote, and that'll be fine. There are two terms that are expiring this year, and that's Chris LeBrake and Christine Miller. And so if someone would be willing to make a motion to approve Chris LeBrake and Christine Miller as PVA board members, each for 2-year terms. Somebody want to? Thank you very much, Pat. And do we have a second on that motion? Okay, very good. Second for Carol. All those in favor, would you just raise your hands? Great, thank you. Any opposed? I don't see any. Congratulations then to our two board members. And for all board members only, after this meeting, a very, very short board meeting just to conduct a little extra business. That'll happen right after this event is over. I think the next order of business really now is just to welcome our special guest, who is John Christ. John is the Community and Economic Development Field Specialist in Merrimack County for the University of New Hampshire Cooperative Extension. And the PVA has partnered with UNH for their Community Business Engagement Program, which will help Penacook identify the needs and opportunities for our local businesses and create connections between the community and the business and economic development resources in New Hampshire. And the end result of this will be a formal report that will be issued, and the data and information in that report will not only help our community in Penacook move forward, but it will also be very helpful to the city's master plan process, which will be underway officially next year. So I will let John tell you more about all this, because he's the expert, and then we're going to open things up for your conversation with you, comments, questions, and discussion. John?
Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you, John. Okay.
Well, thank you, Brent, and thank you all for being here. You may tell that I'm struggling with my voice this evening, and I apologize for that ahead of time, and I'll do my best to make it through. Yeah, so I'm going to be walking you through the Community Business Engagement Program this evening that we'll be working for the next year or so with Penacook and members of the steering committee on, and some of you are here this evening. And I'll be explaining what this is. I'll also be asking you some questions. I asked you all some questions already, and we'll be talking about this, as well as some other questions I have, and try to figure out what it is that I'm doing here with Cooperative Extension, working with the Penacook community. One of the things about economic development is that it's not just a matter of like looking at a bunch of numbers and figuring out, well, this is what we got to do next. It's often a matter of really understanding a place and what makes the place tick, what makes it special. And so I asked you a few questions just to get us started to thinking about these issues. And one of them is, where would you take a guest on their first visit to Penacook? And typically, I might go over here and start reading these, but since I'm saving my voice a little bit, I might ask you all just to, if you said something, reiterate it, or if you hadn't said something up there, let us know what it is. Where would you take someone and why? Like, what would make that a place to take someone, to introduce someone to Penacook? This special place that we have. Yeah.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh. I would take them, one of the places I would take them to is the Rolf House. Has a lot of history. It is also a place that you can identify Red Rolf with baseball if you're a sports enthusiast. There's a lot of history down on the bog. And it just goes to serve as a base for helping the people to understand who we are in some of, the identification of our town or village,
Yeah.
so to speak.
Thank you.
Alexander's Bistro. Great food, great service, and that's where I take my friends.
Fantastic.
Put CC Tomatoes. The reason is that it's a great restaurant, but it's not just a great restaurant, it's one that you can only get in Penacook. It's not a chain where there's one in Bedford and one in Milford and one in Tilton, or one in, all across the country. It's a small business, it's locally run, and it's only here, so it's unique to our town.
And that is a great draw, right? That you're not just going to another chain restaurant, and that is a reason to come to a particular place. Yeah. Anybody else?
The new Canal Street Park, because it's serene, it's nice, you can sit on the water, but you can also go grab an ice cream, well, in the nicer weather, an ice cream from Sweets or pizza from Chiefs, and go sit and have a picnic and hang out with your family.
And this is something else we see, right? We'll talk a little bit later about like different types of economic development, but a lot of what communities are doing lately is re-embracing the water. For so long, the water has been like where towns dumped everything, and all of a sudden it's become an asset to say like, no, we've got water. Like, this can bring people here. Any last one or two more? Yeah.
The weather was nice. I'd go, we do a walk around the island.
Okay.
It's a really nice spot.
Mm-hmm. So also kind of embracing water and recreation again. Yeah.
I said my house because I live right on the river, and I have a deck right there, and I have postcards. When we first moved in, I found out that there were a lot of old postcards with pictures of where we are, taken from our yard, or pictures of the boat that used to go up and down the river. Who would ever know that? Yeah, so that's why I put my house there.
That's great. Great. I mean, the communities are full of stories, right? And history, and this is one of those unique things that you can bank on and celebrate, but also like share with other people to get them to come here.
They can all come to my house, though.
Please.
I mean, I could start a little business if you all want it, but that was just what you asked me personally.
I don't know. We're talking about business here today.
know it's going away, but the scenic rail car.
Oh, the one where you pedal on?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then connecting that to the bike trail, and then going to the highlight for me, Hannah Dustin Monument.
Yep.
And bunking that historical myth, and then about Hannah Dustin and the scalping.
And there she is again. All right, well, thank you. Yeah, so all of these sorts of things are the sort of things that can make a place special to us, but also special to others, and can help be a really vibrant community where businesses want to locate, where people want to come to visit. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later. I just want to give you a little bit of background before we delve any further into this. You might be thinking to yourself already, when Brent introduced me, like, who is Cooperative Extension? Like, I have no idea. Or you might know exactly who we are. So to give you a little bit of background there, Cooperative Extension is, for me, a program hosted at UNH. However, you'll find cooperative extensions across the country at land-grant universities. And so lots of our public colleges that are based on land grants across the country, they have cooperative extensions. And these were founded by an act of Congress initially in 1914, the Smith-Lever Act. And so there was federal funding through the Department of Agriculture, state funding through these land-grant universities, and like UNH, and then often local funding like county funding. So I work as a field specialist in Merrimack County. And the goal of the Cooperative Extension then is to take the knowledge, the educational opportunities of the university and spread it wider, bringing it to agricultural education, rural development, and all sorts of other projects that community vitality and so forth that can help broader communities educate young people, educate older people, and communities across the states. And probably their most well-known program is 4-H. Beyond that, there's a health and well-being program in New Hampshire. There's, food and ag. There's natural resources. And then there's community and economic development, which is the program that I'm part of. And so what do we do? I'll just read from our own promotional materials here for a moment. Our team helps New Hampshire communities like yours learn how to assess community needs, engage residents and businesses, make informed decisions, develop effective strategies, and take action. The results, which include vibrant downtowns, a greater pride of place among residents, increased tourism, are creating a stronger New Hampshire for everyone. And that's, in a nutshell, what we do. How do we do that? Sometimes it's educational opportunities like workshops and webinars and academies and so forth. Sometimes it's a program like this, where we go into a community, a particular place, for a year and a half, and work on some particular issue. And we'll learn more about that in a few minutes. And it can also be more kind of pointed, like ad hoc help in certain communities. But there's a lot of things we do to educate communities, build capacity to do work within communities. So even if we're not there, the work can continue on beyond this, and help with community engagement. So we'll talk about this program, the Community Business Engagement Program, and how it's unfolding in the CBE in a moment, which is why many of you are here, of course, because of the Penacook connection. So broadly, these are what we try to do in the program. And it's a list of a bunch of buzzwords, right? But These really do have very specific meanings within this program. Yes, we're trying to engage the community. Why? You could run a business program, try to learn how to expand business, right? And crunch the numbers and kind of stand on high and look at the opportunities and say, do this, and do this. We really try to listen to the community, see what the community wants to do. Community members, business leaders, talk to people really in depth, and see what people themselves in the community want to do, and base our action plans on, yes, some statistical analysis, but also quite a bit of just community input and making sense of that community input. Where we can, of course, we want to focus on retaining existing businesses. In many cases, these are beloved businesses that some of you have already talked about, and there's a lot of strength there that we can build on, maybe to have momentum to expand further. And, if we do want to expand, right, it's good to keep that momentum of who you already have here. And the same strategies that often keep businesses here are the ones that will also attract businesses. Having a vibrant, exciting place to be. Which takes us to expansion as well, growing your business community, developing relationships. So part of the engagement process is just gathering data. But the other part is building relationships in the community that will last long after this program ends. So by talking to one another, by conducting interviews, and not just me conducting interviews, community members as part of the steering committee conducting interviews with community members, conducting focus groups. You all get to know each other, share stories with one another. And those relationships will continue on. And it'll also be relationships that get built and solidified further with other regional organizations and regional connections that can carry forward, again, beyond the program itself. Of course, we want to create opportunities, and that is our goal here. Part of that is also recognizing what the barriers are to economic growth in the community here, and then recognizing where the paths are to kind of steer through those, to maybe address some of those barriers and find better and stronger opportunities going forward. And lastly, what I've been kind of hinting at all along here is capacity building. We don't necessarily just work for the community, we work alongside the community in these programs. The community is learning how to do this with us as we move along in the program. And what that means is when we come up with action plans and a report and next steps to go forward, we're not just going to leave you hanging and say, what do I do next? And that might be a master plan, but it might be other stuff as well. And how do you get to that next step? And one of the things we do towards the tail end of this program is start to walk you through the process of getting to those next steps. But because you've been doing it along with us the whole way, you'll have a much better sense of how to move forward when cooperative extension does start to pull back. We're not just going to go away, but we will start to pull back after the program officially ends. And you'll have the better tools going forward to make things continue to happen. So I was talking about place and the importance of place. And I don't know if anybody was thinking to themselves, maybe you were, maybe you weren't. Well, isn't part of this also just having a great business and people want to flock to that business and they want to work there because it's a great employer? And to some extent, yes, that does happen. Historically, that has happened a lot more than it happens today. And so it's, I think, instructive to get a little bit of a sense of why is such a focus on places today, especially in a town like Penacook, rather than just hey, what businesses can we lure here? So if I mentioned the Amoskeag Mills or Lowell, Massachusetts, you can kind of conjure up in your mind large developers with an idea, textile manufacturing and such, right, who said, I can build an industry and the workers are going to flock to me. And they did. They found rivers that provided the power from falling water, right? They set up huge mills, and wave after wave of people flocked to those cities to work. And it was an incredibly successful model. People made a lot of money. People made a lot of products. Workers were treated better or worse at times. A lot of interesting history there as well. And that really did work for a while, though. You might notice the bookends of this, right? People follow the jobs. Jobs follow the people. There's some other stuff in between. But that's the kind of story we're telling here. So what happened in between? Increasingly, we went from talking about like an industrial manufacturing economy to talking about a consumer-based economy, which is kind of the flip side of the same thing, but it's kind of a shift of emphasis. And then increasingly by the 1970s or so, we're talking about the service sector. And a lot of things start to shift. The industrial powerhouse of many New England towns, including in this region right here, right, started to go away. And what replaces that? We do start to see a more and more of a greater focus on small business recruitment. I'm sure you've all heard stories about people talking about recruiting small businesses and how exciting that is and being part of the American dream, right? And that has certainly been part of the story as well in that kind of shift of focus from big, like mega industries to smaller businesses as a focus of a large part of our economy. Even while those big industries, of course, are still there. Along the way in the 20th century especially, we had lots of focus on partnerships, public-private partnerships, co-development of technologies, tax incentives, and other things where business was working together with the government to make the economy grow. And there was a large focus on that for a while. And then there was a kind of a pullback on that at some point. But one of the big conversations we're seeing now, and in the last few decades, and you've probably heard this, right, is like place-based economic growth, placemaking, creative economies, and all this kind of stuff. And it's not the sole focus of the economy by any means, but it is an increasing conversation that is happening. And it's one that's very relevant to a smaller community like Penacook. And how does it really kind of bring vitality to its downtown? And what does that even look like? Like you look at a downtown 100 years ago, and there are certain core businesses you're going to have. You're going to have a drugstore, a hardware store, a small grocer, and a lot of other like little things you can count on your hand. They're like every town. Most of our small main street villages don't have those stores anymore. They've been replaced by, online shopping, big box stores, and a lot of other things. So what replaces those to make downtowns exciting and vital again? And that could be a big conversation, which we're not going to necessarily get into all the nitty-gritty of that right here, although we probably saw a little bit of it already right here. And some of that is the service sector, for sure, but it also goes beyond that. But this is why it's important to think about place. Today, a lot of people don't say, hey, I'm going to follow that business to that town, and that's where I'm going to spend the rest of my life. They want to find a nice place to live. And I've heard so many stories right about Penacook and how much people love to live in Penacook. And when there are exciting places, businesses often go to those places because they know they'll find customers, but also because they know they'll find a workforce of interesting people who are there. They're there because of the coffee shops, because of the recreational opportunities, whatever it might be, but they're there. And this is where you see jobs increasingly following where the people want to go. And again, it's always a mix back and forth, but this is taking more precedence than it used to. So if we're going to talk about a place and what makes it special and unique, what makes somebody want to live there, what makes a business want to relocate there, or just start there fresh, from scratch, right? What is it? What is it that draws people there? The quaint historical character, perhaps, right? How do you retain that while still adapting for a new century of growth? It's certainly possible. You have to do it very carefully. Neighborhoods, family, homesteads, community here seems really important. Historical community. And somehow recognizing that while we continue to move forward, right? Anybody have anything else you want to add to that? Yeah? Yes, and if you've been on the steering committee, this has been an interesting conversation, what it means to work within a village rather than an entire town or city. And it poses some unique challenges, but it's kind of exciting. It's a different conversation. And so yeah, being part of a city. That's unique, very unique, and yet still part of Greater Concord.
Certainly, sports leagues or anything to be able to do, be it scouts, sports, farmers of America,
Yeah.
whatever, groups like that, and allow kids to meet other kids outside of school, and something that has an interest to them.
A place to raise a family. If New Hampshire wants to stay vibrant, it needs young people. We're an aging state, the second oldest in the country.
New Hampshire is?
Yeah, after Maine. And we need a young workforce. And being attractive to families is part of that.
Guess I should move.
We're all polluting the whole.
Some of you mentioned Hannah Dustin. There's Hannah Dustin. And I know this is Boscawen, right? But if you look over the second bridge, there we are. And for some of you on the steering committee, we've started to have some of these conversations, or maybe we've already had some conversations tonight about sweet dreams, right? Where are the opportunities? So, here's an opportunity being used, right, Exit 17, and we've started to have some conversations already, but what does that mean? You have this huge influx of people off the highway, getting off and stopping here. What else might they do when they're here, right? Is there a further opportunity than just that development right there? What is the opportunity to build further vibrancy, bless you, on Main Street with its walkable streets and streetscaping and sidewalks and lighting and everything else there? How do we further build off that? When you have something like Strings and Things, right, which brings people in from pretty far at times. People go there to get their equipment. And do they come and they leave again? Or do they come and do they stay and do other things? Hopefully they stay and do other things. What can those other things be? And this is why it's good to retain existing businesses, right? Because you already have something really special here. How do we get them to do something else? And eventually they'll be wow, I don't even need any Strings and Things today. I just want to go to Penacook. It's there's this other thing I want to do there. Maybe go over here. And then I mentioned this because, and I know these conversations have started already, right, about recreational opportunities in Penacook along the river, and boating and all sorts of other things, right? And as you all know, there's rail trail that stops right at the feet of Penacook. And a ton of people on that trail. And there it is. And there's Hannah Dustin, of course. Excuse me. And so that's an opportunity as well, recreational opportunities. And it may be people on the rail trail, it may be people on other trails or parks in town or on the river. What are those opportunities, and how could some of those become part of the story of Penacook as well? That makes it a really exciting and attractive and vibrant place to be. Here is contemporary Penacook with a little bit of a kind of sepia tone to it. And there's a lot here that's historical, as some of you have noted. And it's beautiful and it's wonderful. It gives it character. And we have to imagine ourselves going forward. So the question becomes then, right? If we imagine it's 2050, and Brent and I were talking about this question, imagine Penacook is thriving. And it still feels like Penacook. Everything you love about Penacook is still Penacook. But everything you want Penacook to be is also Penacook. Because as great as any town is, right, there's always room for growth and improvement, whatever that may look like. So this is 25 years in the future. 25 years in like planning and development world is like a blip on the radar. But if you think about 25 years, like 25 years ago, right? Like a smartphone. This world was starting to exist. Most of us weren't really imagining like having what is like a full-blown computer like in our pocket connected to everything, right? You may say the writing was on the walls already, but we weren't quite there. This is Cyber Monday. The world of shopping has changed drastically. Just 4 of those time periods ago, like 100 years ago, the country was barely electrified. Like cities were. Rural electrification really got like its headway less than 100 years ago. And here we are talking about like these silly devices now, right? So really 25 years, a lot can happen in 25 years. So imagine what 25 years from now might look like in Penacook. What's the most exciting thing that's changed? I have a more practical question later, but for a moment, dream. Yeah.
We have a main road. Behind it, we have a vast array of walkways and bike roads where the majority of the population can just walk around and just get from place to place just on foot.
Yeah.
And everything is storefronts. And we're not necessarily self-sufficient, but we can do the majority of our living in our town. Our libraries here, our schools are here, many of our jobs are here. Our shopping is here.
That's great. That's a high bar.
Sorry, I was too much, not just bikes.
Yeah?
Maybe a little more sustainable energy,
Okay.
solar, more electric vehicles in the area.
Cold fusion?
Well,
I don't know. Trying to push it a little bit. No, absolutely though, like a new energy infrastructure.
Yeah, new energy infrastructure, yeah. We're trying to protect the earth a little bit. That's
Yeah.
where we are.
drones are delivering things to the house.
And that might not even be 2050.
Right.
But yeah, like that can probably transform in ways we can't even imagine right now.
Cool public transportation. I mean, it might be something cool like a flying car or a monorail or a drone that comes and picks me up and delivers me somewhere. But the most important thing is that it's actually available, public transportation.
Yeah.
And that I could get it predictably and regularly and not have to wait for the next drone to come by, and it might be 6 hours.
Yeah. And that predictable, usable public transportation might enable the space for more people and bikes and stuff on the streets and all that. So you said monorail. You all know the Simpsons episode of the monorail? It gives me nightmares a little bit, but
Yeah.
I get the sentiment for sure. Anyone else? Yeah?
Just make sure there's enough public spaces that people want to come and bump into people that
Yeah.
they know, which is why the restaurants are
Yeah.
high on the list there. To borrow the Cheers slogan, everybody knows your name.
Yeah. And this is why we often talk about like coffee shops as well, right? Places where you can just hang out and bump into one another. Any last crazy futuristic idea?
This isn't an idea, but it's a question for the audience,
Yeah.
other than me. When we first moved to town, we had the Buggy Barn.
Oh, yeah.
The Buggy Barn was a real place people went all the time. And it was a very popular bar. I'm told, I had never been in there. But it died very shortly after we moved in the 80s. And I always wondered if the people who have lived here thought that that kind of a place was a boon or a liability. You know, because I keep saying we should have a pub, we should have a bar, we should have.
Is that
and
the place that they tore down?
Yeah.
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 Okay,
It's right where the gazebo is now.
yeah. I
Yeah,
moved here
and it was so
a few years
popular.
before that happened.
It was so popular. I remember everybody in town went to the Buggy Barn. If I put something crazy on, my husband would say, "But could you wear it to the Buggy Barn?" Well, I don't know, I never went there. But it was a popular jump and joint, and it brought people around.
Yeah.
And I always wondered, because I didn't know anybody involved in it, whether that was something that was really a loss to the town, or whether they were glad to see it go.
I can't answer that. I can't answer that.
It had a bad reputation.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to say that I don't know the truth of that. And I was a high school kid listening to those stories, and the stories stay with me, but I'm not sure the stories were true.
People sure hung out there and had a good time. And
Well,
it
that's
was
how the stories
a
began.
neighborhood place, wasn't it?
But I think it also
The police
is
were
fun.
there often, Carol.
Huh?
I think the police were there often.
Well, that does happen.
Well, I think this comes down to, right, we want places where people can come and talk to one another and hang out together. And we also want places that meet our expectations as a community, whatever that might be.
But we do have a bar and a pub in town. We have the Forum in 30 Commons.
I would hate for Penacook to become a city. And it's very quaint, it's very unique, it's very agricultural minded. It's my home, and I chose to live in Penacook because of what it is. I'm not against changing or growing, but I'm not for, I like those little quaint shops, but not the
downside.
The other
Because I
side.
think the thing that is unique about it is you still feel like you're in the country, and you can go 10 minutes down the road and you can be in the city, but you still feel kind of like protected and nestled in Penacook because of the way the village makes you feel.
Yeah. And development doesn't have to mean like you're going to end up a really high density city.
It's keeping what we have.
Yeah.
Like the Merchants Exchange block, or the history behind, you know, the gas station, or we're gonna lose the library, but we have a library in the new building.
I mean, even Foxes, I mean, they've been there for years and years and years. I mean, so it's nice to know that you have those familiar businesses that are helping to support the community and you support them so that they can stay in the community.
Yeah.
Kind of a,
Well, and that's the thing, like if you don't have some kind of development going on, some of those might just close down, right?
And I have to speak about Fox, because I am the former owner of Fox. And the community does not provide the support to the small businesses that small businesses need to survive in 2025. So, yeah, we don't want a lot of change, but we want families to come and join our community. And it's really hard to compete with big box stores, but for me, who owned a store in Penacook, it's also important to understand that new, fresh families need to come, and there should be a place for people to gather and do things that are not, we only want it to be a certain way forever, because it can't. That's not how communities work. Fresh, new, young families come in and they need to find things for young.
Yeah. And this is why we need to hear from people in business in Penacook to find out like what's working for you, what's not working for you, what's going to make you go under, what's going to make you thrive.
And what businesses complement each other.
Yeah.
Which is really important when we think about the types of businesses that we want to bring here.
And you know, there was a time when you might like look at like the North American industry classification, that one, and say, well, we need some of this sector, some of this sector, some of this sector, and in certain places on a regional level that still works. But often in a small village downtown, sometimes you have no idea what you need. And like, I've been telling this story lately, and I've probably told the steering committee this story. Like, I live in Plymouth. We have a soap shop. People come to our soap shop. I don't think anybody said, we need a soap shop in Plymouth. But we have these nice little handmade soaps, and people come there for that. You've got strings and things. People come here for that. You may not have said to yourself, excuse me, this is the store we need. So it's sometimes a little bit harder than just saying like we used to, drugstore or so on and so forth. Sometimes you just need those weird niche shops you don't even know you need to draw people in, make them excited. And it's part of what makes a diverse, vibrant kind of downtown village area is to have weird little finds that you didn't expect. And to listen to business owners or former business owners and say like, again, like, what works? Why did you leave? And hear what those stories are and learn from them. Yeah?
I was just going to mention also, when thinking back when I grew up here, the community was really engaged. So we hosted a lot of different events that the community could come out and be a part of. So we had 4th of July celebrations, we did parades, we did Apple Fest, and all these different types of events that made you feel like a community, and it brought people together. And it's not just that you have the businesses or the residents in supporting each other. If you feel like you're a part of a community, you're more willing to go out and be a part in doing the things and visiting the businesses and vice versa. And I think it's more than just business.
Yeah.
It's community too, and making people feel like, oh, I want to come and be in Penacook because we're hosting these events. And
Yeah.
we're doing these types of activities that make people feel good about being here, not just the businesses that are here too.
Yeah. And people have to know about the events.
Exactly. Yeah. So,
Like Wednesday. I believe there's a tree lighting.
there is a tree.
I'm going to go through this slide pretty quick here. There's a whole lot of stuff on here with the nuts and bolts. Nuts and bolts. So to do this work, what we've done so far, I was going to say we've created a steering committee. Brent has been instrumental in putting together a fantastic steering committee. We're co-developing a plan together to move this project forward. Obviously, there are outreach opportunities like this one to meet more people and let them know about the process. We're working on the coming this month, business listings, business survey. I've said a lot about the importance of like really in-depth conversations. There's also a benefit of a wider net that catches more people with maybe a little bit less meaty content in terms of long, complex conversations, but gets a lot of information out of a lot of people. So we're going to do a survey. Following that in the spring, we're going to do key informant interviews. So we'll identify business owners who really have something to say and interview them, learn their stories, what works, what doesn't work, what barriers there are, what opportunities they see, what are the workforce issues, housing, etc. Lots of new housing in Penacook. Is it enough? Focus groups. We'll put together some focus groups. We don't know exactly what they'll look like yet. We haven't gotten that far, but it could be like a downtown village focus group. It could be one focused on a particular part of the economy. Whatever we decide. I just said my voice would make it. Almost there. We'll see what that looks like. Eventually, as Brent was saying earlier, we'll put together all the data. We'll create a report. We'll have a public event where we present the report and have a few other experts there to talk about the findings, what they mean. And then we'll develop an action plan where we have some takeaways and some actions that can hopefully implement some of those with community involvement, so that once the program ends, again, it's not like, well, what do we do now? You know exactly what you're doing. So you have been doing a whole lot. Between housing, amenities downtown, discussions of other amenities, there's a lot going on. In a more immediate world, which 3 to 5 years is probably pretty immediate in the world of like planning, what do you think would have the largest positive impact that we could like start talking about right now? Yeah?
More housing.
More housing. So we're doing well with building housing, but we need more.
I just think of like you were saying about the buggy barn. It seems like it goes back to demographics. The people who go to the buggy barn, the people who go to all these events, tree lighting, all that kind of stuff, they are the younger people. So if you get all the things you wanted on the wish list for Penacook and you brought in younger people, where are they going to live? I don't think there's any place for them to live in this area. So, I mean, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it's kind of tight in the housing. So that's what I feel like you need.
Some more housing, and housing a young
Housing
family
that's-
could afford.
Yes, exactly.
Exactly.
Affordable housing.
And that's
For young families.
that's the
And
tricky part.
Those are the people, I mean, as you get older, we spend less. I don't need to go to all the little shops. Like maybe occasionally I buy some things, but the people who spend the most amount of money are younger. And they're the ones who go into the hardware store and buy all the tools that they need to fix up their house because their kids are growing. When you're older, you don't do that. You start giving it all away.
Yeah.
So it's just, that's basic economy.
Yeah.
The other side of that coin is keeping costs lower for the people who already live here so that we can afford to stay.
Yeah. So this is also like housing and aging in place. And yeah. So I'm not surprised that housing is on people's minds. We had a lot of conversations about housing in recent years.
And kind of a consequence of that, improvement in the school. We have a decent school, but with budget cuts, we're potentially looking at that going down rather than in the right direction. So we need to actually invest in the schools rather than cutting down on their budgets.
One of the things I'm hearing is that when we're talking about economic development, it can be everything. Schools, housing, and beyond.
It's things to attract those families.
Excuse me.
No, I don't want to stop you from answering
No.
that.
I can barely talk anymore, so it's good.
I don't know, I lost track of how long I've been here. I can't do public math. It's over a century. That 100 mark. I'm not 100.
Pretty good if you are, Pat.
Yeah. So anyhow, it's. When I moved here, I didn't really know anybody. But how do you get? What's the trick for people to start making that little investment in wanting their place where they live, not just a place to put their head on a pillow and drive off every day, and how to get them to see little investments as creating that relationship? I mean, you've been talking about this, and how to get that. Maybe it's too big a societal question, or maybe there's some trickery we can do with the downtown.
It's a good question. I don't know that I have the answer for you right now, but
That's fine.
it's a good question.
Can I ask a silly question?
Sure.
The focus group and going out to the businesses, is it every business in Penacook, or is it only PVA member businesses?
Okay,
or-
so quick answer. For the survey, as many as we can find. And they don't have to be for-profits, they can be non-profits, wide net, as many as we can find. For the interviews, they do not have to be PVA members. I mean, we haven't talked about this, but I'm assuming that's not the case. Really, we want to talk about, we want to talk to who can give us the best information, who has the best knowledge, stories, whatever that's going to really give us the information we're looking for. And it's the same with the focus groups. And for those, we have to figure out, first of all, like, what kind of focus groups we want to have. Is it just mixed, which is fine, or is it more like focused focus groups? Because sometimes even if you don't like focus it down, just by having multiple people together, they start to riff off one another, and more interesting stuff comes out than would in a one-on-one interview. And I should just say one last thing there. All the data that's public facing will be anonymized. So nobody has to worry about like, well, I'm not going to say anything because like everybody's going to know I have this opinion about this now. That's all going to be anonymized. But yeah, no, so nobody's really off the radar. Except the rest of Concord. I mean, at least for who we're interviewing. Obviously, Concord's on the radar because we're in Concord.
Seems to me that in the next 3 years, we're undergo massive digital change with AI and driverless cars and all of that. And in the next 3 years, we ought to spend some time thinking about that. That would have a huge positive change.
Okay. Yeah. With that, I'm going to say, A, if you want to get in touch, here's my contact info. If it's kind of small, you can come up and look at it, or I can give you a card, and feel free to get in touch. And if you have any more broader questions, I'm happy to answer anything. I really appreciate all the input. I think it was some good conversations, and I'm happy I made it through and didn't completely lose my voice.
Thank you very much. That was a yeoman's effort. I mean, very brave. He didn't know if his voice was going to hold out, and it did. So thank you.
I did have a speaker just in case.
Yeah, right, exactly. We had some backup equipment just in case, but it worked out well. And I just had a few other just quick thoughts as we cap this meeting tonight. One of John's questions that he put up earlier was similar to, it's kind of a popular question you hear a lot, but I'll just put it out there for you folks to think about. Don't really need any answers yet. Let's say it's 20 years from now and there's a newspaper headline and it's about Penacook. So what would you want it to say, and what would you want the story to be about? So just think about that for a little bit, because that's deep, that's a little philosophical, but it's something to think about as we continue with all of our planning. And we're talking about planning. The best growth that you can do comes from great planning. And so we are going to be engaged in the master plan process coming up. So the master plan 2030, which was finalized in the year 2008, so almost 20 years. Currently it has the following chapters. And so I just wanted to get your rough thoughts on these general ideas. A lot of it will have importance in the work that we're going to be doing on this committee. Some of it's a little out of scope, but I'm just going to run through them quickly. If you have any thoughts, let me know. So one of the chapters is land use. And the goal of that chapter, it says the goal of land use is to provide for continued development and growth, but preserve the quality of life and limit sprawl. How do you think we've done in Penacook or in Concord over the last 20 years or so with that? Provide for continued development and growth, but preserve the quality of life and limit sprawl. Any thoughts on that? If we don't consider Merchants Way as sprawl, which I don't, I think that maybe we've done okay on that. But yeah.
I think Concord has done very well putting a lot of land into conservation. They've encouraged family farms, so forth, to put a large chunk of acreage into conservation.
Right, good point. And that is definitely part of the land use piece. And Conservation Commission in Concord has been around since 1971. So there's been a long-term history of view of importance on that.
It seems as if it's had quite an uptake, though, in the last just 3 years, maybe.
Yeah.
It seems as if
I think
that because the farms are getting old, the farmers are getting old, so yes, they're doing something with it. But.
Right, and the farmers themselves, so Moral Farm is a great example, right, where they have actually taken the extra effort to try to preserve their land in perpetuity. So, that's a private entity that wants to do that, but you're right. Beyond that, there's been a lot of great outreach by the Conservation Commission members especially, who have been able to facilitate these various deals. And it's important just for the natural environment protection, but also for, preserving the quality of life. It's some of the things we talked about here tonight. That's part of the, you don't want it to become a city, right? You'd like it to be a small town, have a small town feel, but part of that small town feel is to have those amenities where you've got that recreational component. And when we talk about young people in economic development, that's what young folks are really striving to find. They want to have communities like Concord's, which has 230 miles of trails or whatever, right, and more to come. So that's a plus for us. And you're right. So that it ties into that. It also ties into, those remember the was it Mother's Day in 2006 or something like that? It was a huge flood in Concord, protecting the watershed, and being able to conserve these pieces of land, large properties, helps to preserve the watershed so that you don't have this incredible capacity of water flooding our local town or the city. So that's good. Okay. Another one is housing. Here we go. So the goal is to provide a diverse housing supply that meets the needs of future and existing residents. How do we do?
Hard to say.
Hard to say.
I think you got some housing, but it's not new family-friendly housing. It's more for your middle-aged, already set.
Right, like what we talked about earlier, where if we get young people coming in, where are they going to go, right? So it doesn't serve them. Yeah. So mixed bag on that one.
Not to put too fine a point, we have unhoused people, so
Right.
we still have a problem.
Right. Right. Okay.
And I think because of the neighboring communities, we're seeing a drain into those communities. I think we need to do more on that.
So more work to be done, certainly, on that. That'll be a focus. This is just your preliminary 20,000-foot view thoughts, which is great. And these are great feedback. When we actually get into the master plan process next year, we'll have an opportunity to make these kinds of comments and get a lot more specific and really dive further into it. Another chapter is economic development. The goal is to foster business expansion that will expand the tax base while providing employment, amenities, goods and services that meet residents' needs. So how have we done in Penacook and economic development? How have we done in Concord? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's gone in the wrong direction.
Gone in the wrong direction. And do you have further thought on that?
Just things like the mall, the fact that used to be.
Steeplegate Mall. So not Penacook, but you're talking about the city there. Yeah, right. So the Steeplegate Mall was a mistake back then, or how are we?
No, it used to be one of our biggest taxpayers,
Right.
and now it's just sitting there empty and.
Right. So something needs to be done for redevelopment on that, right? Pat, did you have some?
I mean, it seems like the real congregate amounts of business seem to be well situated in the city. Just drive, the quality of life, oh boy, that's a big topic, but just the visual quality of life. It's not like 5 stories here, 5 stories there. There's enough breakup driving around town. It doesn't seem like every square inch has got someone living on it or selling popsicles or something. So I'd give a pretty high mark on that.
Good, thank you. Yeah, and actually that's another good point that you're bringing up. We have something in Concord which is called the urban growth boundary. And basically, if you could just draw a circle from like the center where the state capitol is around the city, and that just loosely, let's call that the urban growth boundary. That's the area where you have currently all the infrastructure set up, so you have the sewer, water, all that kind of thing already exists there. But then there are miles and miles that stretch beyond that urban growth boundary that are not developed. And the plan has always been, past master plans, to not expand that urban growth boundary. But that's a topic that's also open for discussion because Concord is the largest per acre municipality in the state.
64 square miles.
Yeah, right. So 64 square miles. Thank you, Rich. Yes. So yeah, that's part of it also. And that, again, that also I think sort of speaks to the planning that we're talking about generally. What happens with that, and how do we maintain what you said, where you sort of give good marks on that overall?
I think visually it's pretty good. I've been in a lot of pretty newer suburbs. You go to Raleigh, Durham, and North Carolina. And, my compliments to Exit 17. There's a lot of architectural diversity there. It doesn't look so cookie cutter. Everything is perfect, and everybody's a size 2 or have blonde hair.
Right.
So,
right.
Bravo.
Yeah, we planned that.
Yeah, I know. We live in New England because we like to see some, not 5,000 houses that look the same.
Yeah.
So I would say that's the visual thing.
That's right. And if you look at, we've been fortunate in that too. Exit 17 is a good one. Another good one, I think, is the Caleb Group with Penacook Landing. If you look at the old tannery building and you look at the apartment building that they designed,
Yeah,
there's a
yeah.
lot of similarities in architecture. So there really is a nod to that former
It
industrial
scales
use.
well.
Right, right, yeah. Yes,
In
John?
the economic development statement, I wouldn't mind seeing in writing that the city should maintain a bias in favor of small local businesses. I'm not sure that another Walmart is a sign of success, but I think another CC Tomatoes is a sign of success. But I mention that specifically because I'm a little sad that there's a chain Italian restaurant going in at exit 17, and I'm sure it'll be wonderful, but I'd rather see something that was not a direct competition to a good local business that we already have. I'd like to see a restaurant that we don't already have,
Right,
but
right.
not a McDonald's.
The Rossios will correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that they reached out to CC Tomatoes, and that was the first thought, was to have a local chain at exit 17, but the owner didn't feel compelled to open another restaurant at this time. So that's another thing, is that when you have property owners in our downtown, Penacook, business owners, they reach a certain age where they say, I'm happy with the way things are, I'm going to ride this out, and then eventually I'm going to die, or the building's going to get sold, or it's going to get passed on to my children or whatever, and they'll worry about it, right? So it's sometimes it's hard to get those folks motivated. But I know that the Rossio specifically did try to have a lot of thought process involved in that. And I'm going to touch on you guys. Actually, why we're talking about this, why don't you, do you have any updates or anything that you want to provide about what's going on and coming up to, that we can expect on Merchants Way?
Sorry to single you out.
That's okay. Just to touch on a couple things that were said, though. You've mentioned, oh yeah, I'm Laurie Rossio, with David Rossio, with the developers of Merchants Way. You mentioned whether or not Merchants Way is sprawl, and that was definitely one of the topics of concern when we were asking for the rezoning. So yeah, it is a mile or two outside of Penacook Village, but it's in Penacook, it's contributing to the Penacook tax base. But it's not sprawl, because it's in the urban growth boundary. And the urban growth boundary was dictated by where you have water and sewer, and that we have. We also have a big industrial building with lots of jobs in it, with lots of manufacturing. So there's a real variety of things going on Whitney Road, and we're trying to continue that growth. So I'll just mention, so we do have a Viva coming in. They are a small chain restaurant, New England based out of Tewksbury. And we did talk to CC Tomatoes. We actually had maybe a year worth of conversation with them. So it was not just a brief conversation, it was a long conversation, and we still go to CC all the time. So needless to say, this is where we are, and that's what's going to be opening up after Christmas. We're also going to be bringing in Marshalls, again, a chain, I get that, national, but I think it's a great compliment to the neighborhood, because you're not going to have to go to Concord, and this is, we have 6,000 people following us on Facebook. And one of the comments I hear all the time is, give me X and I'll never have to go to Concord again. Give me Y and I'll never have to go to Concord again. What's it?
Sorry, Byron.
Yeah, so yeah.
It's all the same tax base.
Exactly.
Except for the school district.
The goal is to, maybe take that little world and just keep it right up here, and then knock it on the highway. And so you talk about whether or not it's sprawl. Maybe it isn't sprawl if you're not going 6 miles to go get those things in Concord, and you're getting them here or in downtown. So anyway, back to that. Marshalls, that'll be under construction hopefully within a couple of weeks and open next year. And next to Marshalls will be some medical office space that we're still working on, some tenants. Next to Aviva is also a small retail space that we're working on tenants. We have another 5 acres of usable space just side of Home Goods that we're working on some tenants. So we're going to have more announcements and coming in the future, and hopefully more businesses that you all appreciate.
I love the Pilates.
Oh, I'm going to Pilates too. So
I'm grateful for the walk-in medical center.
Okay.
And I'm grateful for the context that you just gave now. You know what's not there that surprises me, its absence surprises me? A mailbox.
we do actually have a mailbox for the tenants.
But a
and
mailbox
you
that I
could-
could drive by and toss my mail in.
You could throw your mail in that one.
Where is it?
It's right by the bus stop.
Oh,
Yeah,
There's an outgoing slot.
yeah, it's an outgoing
Okay.
slot to store it in
I'll look for
there.
it.
It doesn't take packages, but it'll take your mail.
good to know, thank you.
Adjacent to Aviva is there's a little bump in the curb, which allows for buses to pull out.
Oh, okay.
So it's sort of like the front yard of the market basket. That's where it is. And just so you folks know, we've been involved with the PVA for many years before our development even, when we just owned that property, the former Woody Hopkins building there on 2 Whitney Road. And it's always been our goal to have the development there at exit 17 that we were doing be the more car-oriented type of development that could benefit from the existing cars, which are already going over the bridge and heading from, Webster and Andover and Salisbury and all that, and coming down that way to get to the interstate highway, as well as maybe serving some of the folks who are going up the interstate. But never to be a competition to downtown Penacook, but always be what we hope to be a complement. So that was our goal, and we're trying to stick with it.
Thank you. I didn't want to put you on the spot, so I appreciate the update and everything.
I just want to give you one little fact. So we track through a national company that tracks, just so you know, they track where you are on your phone. Last month, we had 250,000 visitors to Merchants Way. Wow. In 1 month. Wow. So it's a busy place.
Yes.
So.
100 of those were mine.
They might be.
100 were mine. No, probably more than 100.
If you add up everybody in this room, you've got a pretty good number there. Eats into that. Well, thank you again. Appreciate that. Yes.
Business-wise, I'm noticing we have I'm not gonna call it a lack of variety, but it's like a consistent type of store and restaurant and so on. And they all seem to be geared toward not even millennials really. They're Gen X and older.
Are you talking about Penacook just generally?
Penacook, even Concord really,
Yeah.
but especially Penacook. If we want to draw in younger crowds, especially with families, maybe what we need to do is kind of bring in things that will draw younger people.
Like a bouncy
For the
house?
families, for example, bring in gaming stores, bring in K-pop related stuff, bring in, yeah, you're laughing, K-pop all the way, bring in the stuff that excites the young people, bring in stuff, quite frankly, anything that will bring in kids from teenagers, young adults from Concord even. Let them come up here.
Right.
If we want to revitalize. They'll come from Bosco and they'll come from Tilton, quite frankly.
Right. Good, and it'll be interesting when we do the survey as part of this. What do the current business owners say? Because I think that might be one of the questions is, what other businesses do you think would complement your business?
It's like, I know Sue's Kimball. She's in the theater right now. She's looking for a space to set up shop. I mean, it's different ethnic. We need that kind of variety here, I think.
Yep. Yeah, and I was going to save this for the end, but I'll just jump into it now because it feeds off what you just said. I think that what Penacook has really right now is really great bones. And so now this, all what we're talking about now is putting some flesh on those bones. The good bones are the tremendous amount of investment that the city has made in infrastructure improvements over the last 15 years, certainly maybe a little longer than that, but certainly within that period of time, we're talking about things like Village Street redone, burying of the power lines, which was an extra cost that the city invested in, redoing the lighting and the sidewalk downtown. Then we're talking about the new library that we've secured. We're talking about the new park, Canal Street Riverfront Park, revitalizing the Riverside Park on Tanner Street as well, which is still more to come on that, folks. And so all of that is great because that also shows those developers and business owners out in the community or elsewhere, oh, the city is really investing in this community, so it could be a good investment for us as well, right? So, but now the question is for all of you folks, okay, what are we going to do with it? Where are we going to be bringing in those how do we bring in those kinds of stores? That's what we feel that we want to have and that would help serve us into the future, right? That's all the thinking and the planning part of it that goes forward on that. Any other thoughts on economic development? I'm going to touch on the next one, which is transportation. And the goal is to be inclusive of plans for highways, bikeways, pedestrians, as well as mass transit, buses, rail, and air travel, and to carry out planning consistent with anticipated needs and resources. How are we doing on transportation? I'm getting one of these. Yes,
Well,
Tom.
I hinted at this earlier, but only once have I ever taken the CAT bus. And I took it round trip just to give myself a tour of the city, but know that when it stopped, my car would be there. So it kind of defeated the real purpose, but I had a good time. The reason I don't take the CAT bus is I can't just show up at the bus stop and know that a bus is coming along soon. I have to get a schedule, make a plan. If it's a Friday, I might have to wait 72 hours for a bus. So the bus schedule has not been realistic for me.
Right, okay, right. Any other thoughts on transportation generally then?
Bike lanes are horrible down to Concord. You're taking your own.
Depends which street you're on, right? Yeah.
Route 3. You're taking your life
Yeah.
into your own,
Right.
into your own hands. Mountain Road is even worse.
Right, right. Good. So that's also part of the, planning for, future development up there when roads get reworked, making sure that those other amenities are put in.
And even kids around here, I see, these, especially the younger boys, riding their bikes around, and it's like, oh my God. Okay, am I gonna hit them? Are they gonna jump out into the road and, because they're trying to get places, and it's like,
Right.
there's no bike lane for them to actually ride on.
Right. And we've certainly had a lot of conversations in Penacook recently. If you're taking, for example, the Manor Road neighborhood, the Manor neighborhood, that pedestrians is another issue that's also, I think a lot of people are concerned about that, safety there, especially with safe routes to school and those kinds of things. So it sounds like that one's one where we get, it doesn't get really high marks, or certainly we've identified there's a lot more work to do, which I think the city is already aware of, right?
Roundabouts are.
Roundabout, thumbs up. Okay, good. All right, good. Okay. Any other thoughts on transportation? So conservation and open space, we've actually already touched on that a little bit earlier when we talked about land use. I'll just read that though. The goal is protecting and promoting natural resources and the city's watershed. So I think we say that the city's been pretty active, has had a strong conservation commission, and they've done a lot of good work on that. So I've got just two more for you. Historic resources. The goal is to recognize, preserve, enhance, and continue the use of buildings, structures, sites, and areas in districts having historical, architectural, or cultural significance to the city. How are we doing in Penacook or Concord in general on historic resources? Getting a little smirk there from a couple people, I don't know. Any thoughts on that? Yes, go ahead.
I just hope that the beautiful past library that we have downtown Penacook that's for sale is purchased by somebody who really, really keeps it and doesn't turn it into something that's beautiful on the outside but something bizarre on the inside. I mean, I just, I don't know. But I mean, it's got such a story. It's so beautiful that inside and out, that it's really worthy of, and even some of the buildings on the main street could use a little TLC.
Right.
Right. Rivco could use a little TLC. I mean, whoever owns all these properties probably don't live in Penacook, so I mean, but.
Right. Well, and again, it also, I think, we touched on that earlier, where you have a property owner that may just not feel the impetus or the desire to invest in it as much as we would like to see them.
Yeah.
Right? So I think you end up waiting until there's a turnover. Yeah. And then maybe you have an opportunity for change then. But, so it sounds like there's a little question mark over the historic preservation in some aspects, because we're not sure what's going to happen in the future with, it's the former library branch, but then there are other buildings. So what would happen, for example, if the exchange block downtown sold, right? Yeah. And we weren't sure what the new owner was going to do with that. We would have those same kind of question marks, right? Yeah. So maybe we're looking to have some impetus where you have people were, we'd have a little greater protection in some fashion. There are different ways that can be done. Good. Any other thoughts on historic preservation? Historic resources?
Not so much, preservation's going great, but I think outreach is kind of on the low end, especially with the 250, 300 coming up. Maybe we need to kind of ramp up a lot.
Focus on our existing, you know,
Yeah.
what the 250, 300 means for our community specifically.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, we've got so much history.
Right, right, right. And finding ways to communicate that out generally during the events that are scheduled for that for next year. Right.
I mean, we've got the Penacook Historical Society, we've got Rolf Park, Rolf Homestead.
Right, right, right. Good.
And then Concord, there's so much down there too.
And there are people working on those birthday things, celebrations, and there are plans being talked about, so
You know what? Advertise
it's just
it.
not out there probably yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The thing is, one thing I think I remember, but I was really young about, you know, with the bicentennial, but I think I remember people actually getting people really psyched before we even hit the bicentennial. So.
Yeah. Yeah, it's more of a build-up.
Yeah.
That's really what you're kind
Yeah.
of asking for, I think? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we're almost in 2026, and there's been nothing.
Well, and I think, and of course, we were talking about Hannah Dustin earlier, which is another historic resource point for the community. I think that it's a good point what you're making, because I think what you're really saying also is that in order for us to preserve and protect those things that are important to us, we have to identify them. And we have to learn a little bit more about them and why they're important, and see if there's a general consensus and agreement within the community about that, right? Yeah. Yeah. Okay, good. Last one, recreation. Goals to provide services and facilities to accommodate recreation needs of the present and future residents. How have we done on that?
Needs improvement.
Needs improvement. Anything specific you have in mind on that?
I want a place to take the grandchildren to, besides the parks and the swimming pool. Yep.
So you have like some,
Oh, well, I don't want a jumpy house, but I mean a place where they would come, you know,
Okay.
that they could come, just besides my house.
is that something you think the city could provide, or are you talking about
No,
something?
I think we could, I think a business could come
business
in
could do
and,
it. Right, okay.
and have a, not a bowling alley, but have
Yeah, like a
something,
game
have
room or
something
something?
for kids to do.
A trampoline.
You know, a
Yeah.
trampoline park or something, or,
Right.
you know.
Like there used to be the
Because
roller skating
all
rink a
the
long
all
time
the
ago.
events that they take their kids to, all the adventures and stuff, they're not coming to Penacook to take them on an adventure, except to see me, you know, but, you know, go up on the hill in the back, you know.
That
I
is
mean,
well
it's-
worth the money.
Yes, I know, but, you know.
All right, thank you. Any other thoughts then on recreation? I'll just note, yeah.
Just the rail trail, that's
Yeah.
gonna be a big thing. And I'm looking forward to seeing how Penacook, you know, absorbs
Connects.
it, uses it.
Yeah.
I would love people to capitalize on it and use, like, put little pop-up,
Yep.
like if you go to Alaska, you see all these little pop-up coffee shops and little restaurants and things, and they're right on these main roads or business ways, and people just drive up, you grab your coffee and you carry on. I would love to see more of that here.
There's a lot of pubs along rail trails.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we're hearing about it because of Merchants Way. We have people coming over from the rail trail. So imagine when it connects to Concord, it can go both ways.
Big.
Where you're using
Right.
that as a spine.
Right, right. And I think something really important for us to have future conversations about, because again, planning for that is coming, right? And we want to maybe have some thoughts about what we'd like to see happen as a result of that, so that it doesn't just happen to us and then we have to kind of deal with those circumstances after the fact. Good, good, excellent. Great comments. I'll note that there are two other chapters that aren't actually in the master plan. There's one for community facilities and public utilities. But those will probably be, I'm assuming, incorporated in some form or fashion in that as well. But this is I think, been a great starting point, and I appreciate all your comments. Again, just to kind of get us started thinking about those things. I noticed that there are several areas where it looks like Concord still needs to continue a lot of focus, and Penacook as well, certainly. Yeah.
My name's Judy McPhail, and we live on Primrose Lane, which is lovely. It's flat. Nice sign out there that says no outlet, so people don't drive through. There must be 60 houses in there. They think it's a dead end. But anyway, we moved there about 11 or 12 years ago, and when you don't have children anymore, you don't get to meet your neighbors. That's just a fact. You don't. And so I think one of the ways that I've got to know a few people is through volunteer work in the community. And I think if that was promoted more, how many of you in the room know about the open kitchen that is available Mondays and Wednesdays?
Where is that?
The church.
Yeah.
The church one? Church.
Yeah.
Yeah, because there's one in Boston, there's.
Yeah, I mean, it would be nice to promote some of the volunteer programs a little bit more. I don't know how, but that's yours.
No, well, and that's, there's no chapter on that here, but obviously those organizations are really important to the community. And so I think, recognize.
They are, but it's also a way of a newcomer, which a dozen years later, I'm still a newcomer, getting to know the community a little bit more, know the downtown, so forth. Yeah.
It's how you get a relationship going.
Yeah.
Yeah, and really that's what John was talking about earlier with this program, is that's one of the ultimate goals, is to be able to have, at least so it'll be a starting point, because as you mentioned, there is a steering committee that is working on this particular project. But that will branch out over time, and as those people in that group make those connections and we bring more people in, we make people aware of the PVA, and as I read to you earlier, the mission and vision statement, this is one of the things that we're supposed to be doing, so it falls right in line with this organization's mission. I think that then we're going to be able to hopefully broaden those kinds of community connections and be able to hopefully expand interest and get folks, as you said, who might be new to the community involved. And that's really the future, right? That's not going to be, we're all going to be gone at some point. There's going to be a new group of people sitting in a room like this discussing things, hopefully. They won't all be electronic, and they'll be still able to meet and discuss things like this. And we'll have them, they will be the ones that will be picking up where we left off. So to set the stage for them, I think, is really an important goal as well. Any other thoughts? Yes, Chris?
I think one thing that the master plan doesn't address is what generation, the millennials and Gen Z, are so very different than we are. They work at home. They have one child, maybe two. That's why the elementary school has so many spaces in it. We need to figure out how we get people out of their houses and apartments, because that's where young people are. They're not working someplace.
Right. So overall, the master plan shouldn't be a one-size-fits-all. We need to be able to recognize the different elements of our community and how to incorporate items in the master plan that speaks to everybody, right? That'd be maybe another way of saying what you're saying, hopefully.
Well, not to assume that young people are moving in the same direction that we move.
Right. Okay, good. Right. Good. Any other thoughts? It's been a great conversation. Thank you all. Thanks again to John Christ, and I really appreciate it. We're really looking forward to working with UNH. Just as a note, there are members of the steering committee that we referenced here tonight. Just to show of hands if you're on the steering committee. So we've got a few folks here tonight that are on the steering committee. They've been listening to this whole conversation. This will be helpful also to them. We'll take this back to the group, which will be meeting next week, actually, to further discussions and to finalize, hopefully, the survey questions, which will go out. And I'm assuming John, we're probably maybe thinking about early next year at some point, getting the survey actually out to businesses, right? Yeah, yes. Good. Don't have to just nod, it's fine. You don't speak. Good, so that'll be the plan, and then we will, the PVA will definitely have updates, as I mentioned, on our website, and we'll also be sending out email blasts and other information updating you on the project as it goes forward. And other than that, I hope everybody, if I don't see you again, have a happy holiday and safe holiday and enjoy. And we will enjoy looking forward to seeing you again next year. Take care now.